Hey everyone, and welcome to Jarviskjir Narashiro Nights, the show brought to you by me. That's not a lie, that's factually true.
Now, Ollie,
Roll a deception check.
Let's not forget the partners at twitch.tv.
They can forget about me, I can forget about them, the system works. How's everyone doing today?
Sugoi.
I'm alive.
That's...
Isn't that a font?
That's so much better.
Did you just ask if Sugoi was a font?
Yes!
The thing is, like, no, I genuinely know what he's talking about.
It's
but-
SEGOI, and it is a font.
This is how you know someone doesn't watch anime.
Correct.
Also, for someone who deals with a lot of typeface.
Sugoi.
I do.
Ain't that one of them there fonts?
That's just like my Japanese animes.
So that's how my day's going.
Well,
I don't know.
Sugoi.
That was much more interesting than I expected. Usually you'll fuck that part up. Speaking of fucking it up, today's episode is about politics. You have
Is this a
gone
Mad Lib?
to the city of Kavanari, a new city in the Underdark that is made to be the sort of political hub of the Treaty of the Deep. Now, this actually came up recently.
We're in Geneva.
Yes, to folks who aren't used to Jarviskjir, the idea of the Treaty of the Deep is a bit strange. It is essentially an alliance of the core Underdark races. It's actually signed 6 years ago. It's not a new thing. It's been in place for a while. Although to elves and deep dwarves and deep gnomes and
It's new.
all four of the races are long-lived races. So I guess it's still kind of pretty new to them, but I mean, that's if you want to keep dealing with elvish bullshit in all your D&D games, which I do. Who gave Nightbot a sub? Who did that? It's not the first time either. Is the problem?
Nightbot is your most devoted fan and mod.
Nightbot
Sure, Nightbot is
doesn't
gonna have
work
the first-
half the time. Nightbot has a founders. That's funny.
That's what I want to check on. No, they don't have a founders.
Oh, that would
They
have
have
been
a 3-month
really
subscriber
good.
badge, though.
It's not the first time.
not the first
Let's
time.
see if we can get that up to a year, kids at home. The politics you're bringing to the table is war. The Treaty of the Deep was actually made to be a war alliance, but it kind of ended up being like better as a trade and diplomacy alliance. So the war dreams kind of petered out, and everyone's been kind of doing their own thing, and you're coming up and saying, hey, we need to get our shit together if we're ever gonna beat the nerds who live upstairs, right? You actually walked in saying, and here's how we're gonna do it, and everyone's like, that's horrible. We don't want to give slaves rights. What? Like, gross. Ooey. You're adjusting the plan somewhat to kind of, the focus now being, let's make war. Let's make a good war. In the doing so of a diplomacy, you've met a lot of colorful characters, including Deep Spine, who you were definitely a fan of, who runs the Soul Forges in the Dwarven city that make the Ross, like Torum. Definitely made an ally of him, at least maybe the beginnings of a beautiful friendship. Anything else that I missed?
I planned to probably destroy another battery in demonstration.
Yeah, you're planning a demonstration of your war technology.
Yeah.
That's a whole extra aspect that I forgot. Because you have a lot of things that could be very useful in the theater of war, and that's kind of the suggestion moving forward. I don't think any of you had any evening plans So,
No.
we actually start today, the morning after. I mean, you have a diplomatic villa in Kavanari. Aside from the wild dogs, there's no wild dogs. It's very quiet, right? The only noise in the building is you guys and the chef cooking breakfast because you asked for it. And the chef, he's loud. He's a grumbler. But other than that, it's really quiet. And Narashiro is... Narashiro is also a quiet city. Never mind. So,
Great.
well, I'm just telling you, you're not getting assassinated in the night or anything. What's the plan?
Those were some important portents.
The Treaty of the Deep is reconvening at some point today. Those meetings always seem to be kind of in the afternoon, so you do have time to do, do some content beforehand if you want to.
What kind of content do we want to do, guys?
Yeah, you want to do some raids? Get that sweet new armor set?
Actually, yeah, I need to do my dailies if you guys want to queue up for a quick battleground. That'd be great.
I want to learn to play the drums.
Alright, so Rakath's gonna grind some skill points.
No, you're just starting out. You gotta. It's like The Sims when they don't know how to play violin.
Him mouthing it as he's. That's just him mouthing it. He can't actually hit the drums.
You can't afford a drum.
He doesn't have drums.
Step 1.
Step 1: acquire drums.
Acquire drums. You got a couple good drums right in your ears there, Rakath. Just use those. You could do a badum tiss here, but you don't have drums.
There's the joke. We finally got there. Okay. Aaron, please save me.
Okay, so our plans for going into today's meeting, one, we're going to repeal our previous proposition. We're going to phrase that as we heard what they were saying and we're willing to compromise, negotiate.
That's right, yeah.
Which, first time it's ever happened in politics.
Yeah, first time ever. So we're going to do that. We're going to refocus our shift to a joint military effort where each nation will essentially bring a percentage of the...
Basically proposing a joint task force.
Yeah.
Even more than a joint a joint military. A joint war.
Form a committee?
Yeah. This is the committee.
Will understands where I'm going from. So, fun fact, in Canada, our Black Ops basically is called the JTF, which is the Joint Task Force.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, you are gonna have to think of a snazzy name. That
JTF
is valid.
2 Underdark Boogaloo.
Unfortunately, 2
legally that cannot
every
be
time.
the case.
Then we're gonna do Ruffy's demonstration. Is the third thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it makes sense, you go, hey, let's make war. Also, look at this fucking dude. Hey, ma!
As a note, you should also do the talking. They don't like me.
I don't think they like me. I don't think they like any of us.
They like you more than they like me.
Do you want to roll an
Because I am
insight
emblematic
real quick?
of the slavery.
Yeah, let's all insight the situation. Great.
Yeah, if anyone can. That actually does make sense to be something Voss would notice. Voss, here's why everyone hates you guys. Yuna's too young. Rakath is a horrible, ugly monster. You are a samurai, which actually means they don't trust you so much in this kind of meeting. You probably have the best honor. And they probably didn't notice Rofi was in the room. That being said, there's obviously people didn't really like you because of what you were saying, and you are planning on repealing the idea of adding the Weavers as their own faction. They seem really against the idea of adding more races to the Treaty of the Deep. This is probably because they did this for the Darklings, and it hasn't really paid off.
So what I'm hearing
but it
is
does
that
seem that...
Oh, sorry, I was just going to say, we're basically on a gradient. Rofi is somehow in the negative, meaning that no one actually knows he exists. And the graph is Rakath, who is a horrible monster, a well-spoken one, but
They might
objectively.
they might like Rakath more than Yuna.
Yeah, and then riding that line is Yuna, and then me, they're just like, yeah, we know what to expect from this person, so they might dislike us because of what we're saying, but they...
Yes.
Rofi's just in the corner.
Okay.
They will soon all know me.
Idiots.
All shall bear witness.
The thing I was gonna
That's something that
say
you voice.
is, it seems that there are quite a lot of other nations that want to be part of the Treaty of the Deep, of which they are actively denying. This came up during the meetings, that if we allowed the Weavers, we'd have to allow all these other people.
It's a slippery slope.
It's a
type
slippery slope.
Which is a
Which could
fallacy.
be further useful if you want in
Yeah.
future.
We're telling them that their logic is a fallacy.
No, that there are other factions that want to be part of the treaty. That might be useful in the future.
Why does no one ever know that they're thinking in logical fallacies?
That's what makes it a fallacy, right? Okay.
I'm aware.
If you're
We're gonna
aware
be
that you're
bossy
thinking
then.
in a fallacy, then you're just an asshole.
I think that some of them are just assholes.
Totally valid. But, anyways, I will just basically convey this information in as cold and concise a way as anyone can.
Yes.
It'll be like when we're talking about this, be like, all right, look, in matters of diplomacy, there are always layers, as you're all aware. Rofi, no one knows you exist. If anyone seemed to see you, they probably think you're like Yuna's weird brother or maybe child or something. Rakath,
I...
Yuna, they feel that you're too young, most likely. And I mean, I know you're very mature for your age, but only seeing not even your 3rd century yet can be a little shaky for some of these people. That said, I am also young considering the type of people we're around, but at least in me, they may not fully trust our motives, but in me, they trust the station, if that makes sense. So, whatever we
Voss
propose, let me be the
Agreed.
one
Make
to
Voss do
propose
it.
You got this. I'm also
We
gonna
believe in
have,
you.
Can I have a letter sent out to Jericho?
Yeah, it will get there in like 3 weeks.
3 weeks?
It's a long
Do they
way.
have a sing ring?
Ooh, that the Sing Ring is kind of a wired connection. I mean, it's not, but they might. There might be. They're
Magical
probably-
wires.
Yes, it's magic wires. Thank you, Tesh, for pointing out the logic there. No, there would be like a
This is a
building
diplomatic city.
There would be a building you could go here to Sing Ring back to Narashiro. The other cities don't have Sing Rings. It's a Narashiro invention because it was invented by Tanuma. So
What
you
a
could
bitch.
send a message to, you write it down and then you give it to the person, and in a very, Queen's English broadcast, they'll send it to Jericho.
Okay, we'll do that. Just like,
Paging Jericho. Paging Jericho.
hey Draco, I really need you here.
Hey Jericho, I really need
Come
you here.
immediately.
Immediately.
Trying to make it sound
I
like
mean,
more of an emergency than it actually is, so he does come.
Yes.
I'm trying to make it sound like more of an urgency than it actually is. So
Read with urgence.
Read with urgence.
Sure. That could be sent out, no charge. You're a diplomat. You're the delegate for Narashiro.
Who fucking let that happen?
I mean, we were told explicitly that we weren't.
As far as
yeah,
anyone
then
knows
they-
here, you are. You have the
Yeah,
delegate's
they
villa.
They didn't send a delegate, so I guess we are.
I loved the part last time where you were just like, "Where's the old delegate?" It was like- that was very, nice.
So, Ollie, here's a question for you.
I may have an answer.
And this isn't something I know if even exists or whatever, but that's why I'm asking. Is it possible, or do we have access to a map of the surface world?
Ooh, that is a good question. The answer is maybe. You would have to ask someone. Right, you don't know for
Okay.
sure. You would have never
'Cause I imagine-
seen one, aside
Yeah.
from maybe your shrine had one, but it would be very vague.
Like,
you know, it's not
Super
cartography.
outdated.
Yeah, it's not outdated. It's mostly mythological.
Yeah,
So
like I'm
you-
not looking for a map with like sea serpents and shit in the water. Like a map that's like somewhat relevant. 'Cause
You
I
think
imagine
there
that would be
probably is
something- Yeah. Okay,
somewhere
then
here
I'm
in
gonna
the city.
spend my time before this meeting looking for a map of the surface in this area.
Would you like me to help you with that?
Actually, yes. You know what? If you could find a map of the area, that would be.
Why don't you help me with that?
I would love to.
Investigation? Perhaps?
No, because this is actually quite easy once you go looking.
Okay. Never mind.
You head towards the library that you were in before, Rakath.
Oh, yeah, I do know of a library here, don't I?
But it's not the library that you're actually interested in. The library is a big building with a dome on top. And when you go up to the dome, not only does it have
I like domes.
some windows, it's from the outside, stone, smooth stone. From the inside, you can see out. And you can see the Aether crystal on the ceilings, you can see there's buildings, you can see the big grass area outside where all the merchant caravans are. But you can also see a big, painted on the floor with delicate masonry and a topological map of both the surface world and the underrealm. They're kind of side by side. You know, I say painted, it's some of it's carved, some of it's painted, it's a little bit of both. But so you could literally, and this is a big room, like, you could literally stand on a place and you could move symbols around and stuff.
I believe we have our war room.
Yes, there are some desks and things on the outside, there are bookshelves, there's only one entrance to the room, and it's, you know... You had to ask to come in. That's a degree of protection. But there's no one in here. No one's using it. It's a bit dusty. But you do have a map of the surface.
I am going to take some time this morning to draw that out.
I was literally just about to say, like, Rakath, can you make me a copy of this, please?
I'm gonna have to give you a map now, aren't I?
Yep.
You, William can
I have it.
send
I
you
have
the
it.
JPEG.
Yeah, I have
Yeah.
it.
Me, as a person, I know what the surface world looks
Yeah.
like.
Does it have city markers on it and such?
It does. It has cities and
No
countries.
names, presumably, but
They would have names. You would be aware that it might not be the name the country calls itself.
Right.
These are the names that whatever
have
scouts
given them.
have been giving out.
Yeah.
Interestingly, when you're looking around, a lot of the things... this was clearly a dwarven construction. Clearly. Dwarves usually mark what they make. This room was made by and commissioned by, kind of a bit of both, someone called Botov, Binding Break.
spelled B-O-T-O-V.
Yeah!
Botov.
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 Well, this will take me a little bit of time.
The interesting thing, of course, to note is where these maps line up. And
That
it
was
is
literally what I wanted
very, you know, the Narashiro is under the Elven lands, but the city of Narashiro itself and where most of this it doesn't really line up with any particular city. It's kind of equidistant between the two cities of Aradia and Thundral, which are the main settlements. Although you know there is actually a route to take to Thundral if that was something of note. The Underdwarves are almost exactly under the Dwarven Kingdoms. It is very... I don't even think it would be like uncanny or weird. It just kind of connects and makes sense. The actual main city of the Deep Dwarves is pretty much under the Crimson Mountain. most likely wise, because, that's a solid support of, rooted stone and all that sort of blah, 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 blah. The Ebimari are, their lands are in the human kingdoms near Goldport. There are known routes that would connect to Goldport, but the city itself, it would be under, according to this map, just large swaths of farmland, which, according to information, is where a lot of, food is gathered by both races, technically.
Strange happenings in these parts. People go missing.
Exactly that kind of thing.
I think it's aliens, for one.
I mean...
But what's interesting is, the map I let you guys see, it wouldn't have the outline of a continent. That would not be relevant. So you can actually see how the mainland of Jarviskjir is kind of 3 times as big as you thought it was.
Yeah.
Because it goes up and down basically the same amount as the Heartlands that you are under.
Okay, so my biggest piece of information that I'm trying to gain from this is basically, is there any place, like if I look at it, like you say there's routes going between them and stuff, is there any one place that I can look at and be like, this is very clearly like the place we'd be most
Yes. Most vulnerable?
Like,
there are... You can actually give me a intelligence or wisdom check.
thank God.
You can use the 18 if you want.
I would love to.
With a
Can I
modifier,
also-
that will be... Yes, feel free.
20.
20 is a good number.
That's a
Luckily-
natural 20.
Well, that's good. You both work together. You know, different eyes see different things. There are 3
Well, that's the thing.
obvious choices. Of course, Thundrol. There is a known route between Narashiro and Thundrol, and they know where you are as well. Both sides are using that route. In some of the research up until this time, you have, knowing that you're going to ask about war, Lithura did actually send troops for Surface Wood. There were battles happening, specifically assassinations and just literal terrorism. So,
Very cool.
when it comes to vulnerability, that's probably the most vulnerable, but that's also very easy for you to defend.
Yeah.
A
Like, it's the most
place
accessible.
that is equally accessible for the dwarves is there is a settlement on the other side of the Crimson Mountain called Gemthadur. According to this map, there is a very short route from the wall of Aben Na, which is the dwarven city, to Gemthadur. So short, there must be battling happening. Actually, that is noticeably a scuffed area of the map. Things have been placed on this floor and moved around there a lot. It's so short, there has to be battling going on. And considering the something Rakaf would think of, considering the Duros and the culture of the dwarves, this would probably be the best place to begin, because if battling is already happening there, you already have a huge organized military. It just needs a push and a leader.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be surprised if surface dwarves were attacking back as well there. Dwarves are quite aware of the Underrealm, apparently. Goldport and Goldport and Ebimari would be a way to attack. It seems to these routes and the notations on it that there is a known but quite difficult route that you can take directly under the city. And not like this route will take you near the city or the... No, it's literally under one of the parts of the city. You can climb up. Of course, having an army climb up would be the problem. This would be something that Voss would think about. Actually, having military training is... The difficulty of these wars is a pitched battle is very hard to have in most of these places.
Yeah.
The Underdark cannot push an army, because no matter what, you're going through a choke point. You need to think of other ways about it. If there is a route up under Goldport, you need to think of a way to get an army to go up. And that's one of the reasons why there hasn't been a large battle there. that would be a good place to attack as well. But the area around that, while it's in Ebimari Mind Flayer territory, it's not... first of all, it's near a place where something has been scrubbed off the map in the Underdark. Secondly, other than that, it seems to be unsettled, wild lands.
What seems to be scrubbed off of the map? Like, can you tell if it's a city or is it a...
Probably a settlement. It's really only settlements on the maps, and something to show the biomes. So most likely a settlement was scrubbed off the map near Goldport in the Underdark. Then what Rakath would think of is the Ebimari had recently suffered massive losses. There's an entire city removed from the map. And it's a very Underdark way of, no, we're not going to, like, it's gone. Just remove it from the map. It is now irrelevant. Which leads you to believe it is gone. It wasn't just a lost battle. That settlement is gone.
What could destroy an entire settlement down here?
Oh, cave in?
Rovi, I didn't know you were here. My God, get the living Christ out of me.
Oh, sorry. I was looking at the thing.
Oh, jeez. Oh.
now you understand my point.
You were not wrong, boss. Did we leave Yuna alone with the creepy dwarf chef?
I fear for his soul, but that is a matter for a living.
That's more what I'm worried about. We may not have a dwarf chef when we get back.
Well, he'll still be there, but he won't be there.
You know what I mean.
Anyways,
what I see here.
That's a snafu for another time.
Agreed. What I see here, either way, is that there is something to deal with there for the Ebimari, clearly. We need to know what's happening there, what took out that settlement, and whether or not that is an avenue through which we can actually send in not a force, because as you said, it doesn't make sense to move a force up if you're going to have to climb up a small area, because we wouldn't be able to actually support the full forces there.
My immediate thought in this matter is that it is almost impossible to navigate a military force when you do not control the other end of a choke point through a choke point like that. It's folly. But if we were able to send a small force...
Assassins and infiltrators.
Yes, but even aside from that, a small force of those gifted arcane arts were able to set up a teleportation circle. You can ignore the choke point altogether.
A teleportation circle is still a choke point.
It is.
Don't forget, it takes time.
You'd also know that the technology to make teleportation circles, in the Underrealm, it does exist. It's not like the surface where it's an ancient technology. But, hey, guess who made most of the ones in Narashiro? Tanuma.
Yeah.
You don't have one between Kavanari and Narashiro, otherwise you would have used it. It definitely could be doable, but it hasn't been done yet. But that is a good idea. That might be a better idea after you occupy a place, because then you wouldn't need someone who could fight as well as make a portal.
Exactly.
I think you're on the right track. The idea of holding the other end of a choke point rather than taking a choke point from the other end may be easier.
Absolutely. Because if you are able to secure a foothold on the opposite end of a choke point, you have your reinforcements coming to you and your foothold only grows. If you are stuck in a choke point in the middle, it doesn't matter how many soldiers you throw down that choke point, the opposition will always be in equal measure.
Do you remember when we played, Traitor's Run back in Paradise, Voss? Do you remember how
there were many games, but yes.
Do you remember the close one we had that I won?
I feel like there were several of those as well, but...
There were.
Yes.
One in particular comes to mind here. Do Do you remember when I told you not to neglect your priestess?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I didn't move anything towards your priestess for the entire game, except for a few small infantry directly beside it, holding the position until we were ready. But I moved all of my forces over to the other side of the board to attack your dragon, your most prized piece, keeping your attention there. We already have a war waging on Gemtodur, or whatever this place is called. Weird, that word just came into my head. Anyways, I feel like I just had someone talking to me in my ear. Very strange. But the distraction allowed me to not only take your dragon, but then immediately after take your priestess, completely rendering your forces useless. And I did that without you noticing your priestess. My suggestion here is that infiltrators of the Abamari, if we can get them into this city, whatever this settlement is, directly
It's
above.
Gemtador. This is the one
No,
the
no, no,
dwarves
the
are
other
fighting.
one. The other one.
He's talking
Over-
about Goldport, I think.
Yes.
Ah,
The one that looks like it's marked with just a squiggly circle with
The
a bit
city
of
of
lines going
men.
into the center. Yes. The city of men. Here. If we can get them to infiltrate that silently, get people in place, ready to fight and ready to launch without them realizing, then in theory, what we're doing on the front with Gemtodur here will allow us to completely distract from our true plan, which would be to go up through the human territory.
They will be so focused on
A full-scale
resisting
war.
the flood,
Yes.
they will not notice the erosion
trickle.
from beneath.
Yes.
Mr. Rakath.
Yes.
Flow of your natural 20 moves back and forward through time. This plan relies on the surface races being as well allied as you are.
Yes, it does.
Something you know nothing about.
Correct.
But you have tried to deal with races.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can make an assumption that they probably don't have a treaty of the surface.
No, but what this does, at the very least, is if there's any communication at all that a full force is coming from the underground, there will be that communication. So at the very least, they will not fear their own territory if our full forces are going ours.
I actually
need to
like
figure
that
out
plan a lot, because if they end up banding together, which is the thing,
Yep.
that
Which is what we're trying to do is we're trying to
do,
bait them into an alliance with each
which
other.
is hilarious.
I just
Because
like that
somebody-
sentence.
Yeah. You just need to present a unified front that they think they need to resist, or else it will be the death of them all. And by resisting that very front, they will be sealing their own fate.
Yes, precisely.
And I mean, if they happen to, like, I mean, if they looks over in like the direction of like where the dwarves are, if they're stubborn, then well, they don't get help, and then that works too.
Then we have that point to go through. This is a point of two, well, relatively straightforward accesses. If we can make sure that we defend Narashiro in the same breath.
And that is what we will need the Alliance of the Deep for.
Precisely.
We would need to figure a way up.
Because you're right, the Mind Flayers, the Ebamari, are...
Is that an ancient term for them?
It's
Yes.
interchangeable.
Yeah.
I sometimes
I knew
say
this.
I sometimes say like all three words just in case there's
Yeah.
like little Jimmy No Law
I feel
stumbled
like
into the
Mind
stream.
See-
Flayer is to Ebamari as Dark Elf is to Drow.
Yes.
Yeah, I was about
It's
to say,
Ebimari
yeah.
is specifically the culture, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Logically.
I'm aware. Rakath doesn't know that, though.
Yes! Anyways.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
They're not extremely useful on the front lines, given their fragile nature, but when it comes to some and the total erosion and disintegration of a people from the inside out. They are unparalleled. So I agree with you.
We just need to know what happened to them and what removed that settlement, because
That
otherwise
is
this
what
plan
worries
is
me.
forfeit.
Because it has to be one of three things. Either there was some type of incursion from the surface, which they haven't spoken about, which is troublesome in and of itself, or it was some type of natural disaster, which, while unfortunate, is the best case scenario, or there's something else down there, like a dragon or some other such type of creature. What do you think the Mind Flayers would do if they managed to get their hands on a dragon, by the way? Just some food for thought.
If only there were a
Well.
place you could learn such a thing.
I was watching YouTube the other day.
Well, you know, there are some interesting books on what might happen.
Yeah, I wanted to say, I was on my Kindle, and I don't know why the idea of Voss having a Kindle is very
He
good
totally
to me.
would. He would.
He's not got time for real books.
Yeah.
Right?
I, for
One of
one,
my-
listen
one
to
of-
audiobooks.
I was just going to say, one of my 3 Audible.com downloads this month was...
All right,
It's a
Move
great
move
deal,
along.
Raka. It's
You got a
great-
good plan. So, DM saying your idea, you got this war plan. Great, you can go into the meeting with a war plan. But you
That
want to
was
ask some
fine
questions to
for
the
me.
Ebimari at the same time. And the dwarves, for that matter.
Okay. This has been very insightful.
I'm gonna purposefully walk over parts of the map. Not that we're making many scuff marks, but I'm gonna walk over random parts of the map just to
Just in case.
essentially mess with tracks of any kind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get you.
Yeah. Being paranoid self, you know how I am.
All right. That would have taken
That's
a
just will,
long
though.
while, so
Yes.
are you good to go to the meeting?
Well, we're gonna go back and get Yuna first.
Yes!
And both
Is our
kind of
dwarf still alive?
in and out of game, just to go over what we want. What exactly is it that we're proposing here, just so we're all on the same page?
Specifically you when we make you talk.
Yes, that's
Yes.
why I'm
The
asking.
idea, from my understanding, is that you're recanting your previous suggestion, or whatever the actual fucking word is, of making the Weavers
That's
their own
fine.
faction. And instead the Weavers will basically just be a aspect of the Narashiro military.
Because
You'll worry about that.
Yeah.
And
Like, we'll
then
handle them. Yeah.
this war plan basically let's unite in the war, like, properly, for reals this time. Instead of all doing our own thing, but kind of together, let's, like, actually have a united joint task force.
Okay, those are our 2 big things. One thing I do want to do is the oh my god, Hinonio. She's around, yeah.
Yeah, she came with you. She wouldn't have.
Cool.
She would most likely, now that she's not really necessary, be in the gardens with the merchants, right?
I did want to meet with her at some point before we go to this.
I want to go to the merchants too, so you go talk to her and I'm gonna go shopping.
Awesome.
Great.
Yuna, come with me.
You would go to find her, just sort of hanging out with a beetle, watching everything with the eyes of a warrior, all the other merchants and strange creatures. Narashiro, the other creatures you'd see in the city are usually, Rakath being an exception, and Rofi. Usually it's members of the Treaty of the Deep. You see, okay, we see an Evamari, we see a dwarf, we see a gnome. Here in this merchant place, you see all sorts of strange stuff. Things you've never seen before. Seemingly friendly, otherwise they wouldn't still be here. Voss would notice the large amounts of crossbowmen on the walls and things like that, and there's most likely magical protections on a city that was built so recently by a bunch of magical societies. But a lot of weird races you've never seen before, with tents and things like that. Maybe some trying to be seen by the treaty. And Hinonio is definitely... She's got a bit of an eye on that.
Cool.
She'll just give you the nod when you approach.
Yeah, like I imagine like if I'm approaching from behind, like I just come and stand beside her and just give a nod of acknowledgement.
Yeah.
Just say, so how are you finding your stay in Kavanari?
It is not unpleasant. It is not Narashiro, but it is nicer than some places I have rested my mind.
I feel that all of what you just said is by design. In any case, with regards to the treaty, it is likely that we will have to cede on bringing the Weavers in as a separate faction signed to the treaty. However, they have no control over what we do in Narashiro, so we would, of course, instate the Weavers as a legitimate branch of the military. You would still regain control over them. You simply would not have a vote in the council regarding matters of the treaty. How do you feel about that?
I have no interest in attending meetings and voting on who should have extra berries in their rations and such. This is agreeable. For now. Things might
Good.
change in the future.
And we can burn that bridge when we get to it. However, I have no doubt that you are willing to follow myself and our people into battle. So I do not see this as an issue. So long as you hold no resentment, then I would consider the matter closed.
She just doesn't really reply.
Great.
Which is,
That's,
you know, a drow acceptance is no reply.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I'll
will
linger.
be, you know, while you're lingering, she'll just point really far away with her short sword, not her main sword. And she'll say, have you ever seen anything like that? And one of the merchant caravans is a seemingly flower person, but not like a dryad or something like that. They are 6 foot tall or so, and they have like a flower petal head and a plant-like body with leaves and a stem. She just seems very amused by it.
I don't imagine I have seen anything like
No,
that, so-
never, no.
Yeah.
Super
I'll
weird.
just look to her and just say, no. But I imagine they would make an excellent floral arrangement for the wedding. And then I'm going to just turn and leave.
Fair enough.
My God.
Like, just making it unclear whether or not...
Yeah.
that's a joke.
You know. You'll just show up next time and it'll be dead. Like, here it is.
Literally what I'm picturing in my mind. Do you ever play, what's that game called? The Yoshi game with Baby Mario?
Yeah?
Yoshi Island?
Yoshi's Island, thank you. There's, like, enemies in that are, like, flower gods.
Uh-huh.
It's
I know
it's
exactly what
similar.
you're talking about.
The inspiration is adjacent to that.
Yeah, except they're huge and monstrous. But anyways, that's all I wanted to do was just basically inform her about what is happening. So when that happens in the meeting, she's not like, what the fuck? So that's my plan.
Just to briefly, you're going shopping, Rakath and and probably Rofi. You didn't invite him, but he's
coming.
about.
He was distracted.
He's with you guys, so he's just gonna follow along.
Yeah. You were
There's
invited
a-
implicitly. You were already with us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's again, lots of selections of other peoples you haven't seen before, and also people who clearly represent. You know, there's a culture of dwarves that dress differently and talk differently, and same for elves and such things. And there's all sorts of things on sale, from some simple weaponry to potions to toys to clothes. But you would notice near the entrance sitting, it's a very, very large, lumpy figure. It has a beetle, but it's got boxes and barrels and sacks on the way you would usually sit. It's not sitting on it, it's just using it like one would use a mule. Almost definitely, based on descriptions that you've had, that this would be a Fomorian. It seems to be selling slaves.
Rakath ignores it fully. And
Rakath, don't you want to say hi?
To what?
To what?
You know,
Nope.
that guy.
Rakath is going to go look at some baubles at any other merchant stand anywhere.
Oh, there's a stall here with a young gnomish owner that's selling, you know, songbirds and things. Oh, this is very interesting.
Would make a good friend for Reginald, don't you think?
Reginald will eat these birds.
I'm gonna go say hi.
Rakath is ignoring you at this moment in time.
Well, if he can tell you more about who you were.
That seems irrelevant.
Rofi?
That's Rakath zooming away.
You say
from
Rofi. Rofi
responsibilities.
takes one step next to Rakath.
Are you like hiding behind Rakath's leg, looking at the thing?
That's the sad bit.
Oh. Again, Rofi, now you're making me feel guilty. Because you're siding with me. Look at Yuna's face. Look at how pouty she is. Fine. Fine. Let's learn about my past. I will walk
Walk up
with
and say
you.
hi.
You head up.
My name's Ina.
The Fomorian is slouched, sitting against the wall. Fomorians are very tall, even for hunched giants. It's probably 15 feet tall or a bit taller. It's wearing like leather hides and things that are fashioned into clothing. It doesn't fit as a clothing would fit someone who isn't lumpy, and it's not as covering as Rakath's is. You see a lot of the lumps. It's picking its teeth with a large sharpened bone. And it's one, like Rakath, one eye is much larger than the other, and that eye just down to you. And it does make a noise as the eye moves.
Rakath's does as well, it's just quieter.
You just don't notice it as much.
He's smaller, so it's quieter. That's how it sounds.
I want to see that in an ASMR video.
Fomorian
Fomorian eye sounds to put you to sleep.
Yeah, I kind of imagine it's like two wet stones rolling together.
Yeah. I can get behind that.
It looks down and kind of pauses for a bit, and then motions to the gaggle of crying people. You want one?
Actually, this is my friend Rakath. And he has some memory loss. And we were wondering if there was a way, or anybody you knew who can contact your people who might know him.
Lots of people
He's a
know
lot,
lots of people.
Rakath just nods.
Sorry to have wasted your time then.
Starts
Is there
walking
anyone
away.
in particular? He came from kind of like a forest across the sea.
Yeah,
It wasn't a sea, it wasn't salty.
we live in forest. We
Where
people
is that
forest.
exactly?
West. Underfay. You
Yes.
call.
Rakath, maybe we should visit sometime.
That
He
doesn't seem
will
necessary.
move like Rakath with a surprising burst of speed and kind of move and rest on his arms and lean forward and say, if someone forgets, they forget for a reason. Memories lost should be kept lost.
I agree.
Sounds like a really great way to treat something like that. Right?
With effort, it like rolls back to where it was sitting, but now it's lower down.
Give her your time.
Goodbye, crying people. I'm
no.
sorry about your circumstance. And thank you for your time.
That's the Underdark equivalent to it sucks to be you. Sorry that's happening. Deuces.
Hey, I want to leave. I am very uncomfortable.
Why are you uncomfortable, Ratcast?
I don't know, actually.
See? This is the problem with not knowing half the things that you're supposed to know. That you don't know why you're even uncomfortable.
That's okay. If I vacate the premises, I will be less uncomfortable, and therefore it's okay. Avoidance is a perfectly reasonable defense mechanism in these circumstances, Yuna.
No, I don't think it is.
Avoidance and abandonment of all my worries and woes. Boss does it. I don't see why I can't.
Oh, Voss doesn't do anything like that.
He definitely avoids all of his concerns.
No.
Yes, that's what meditation is.
See, the key is just to not have any concerns.
So
That's
what did you come
Josiah
down here
talking.
for, Ratcast? What did you need to buy?
You're not wrong.
I don't know what just happened. I was frozen for a moment in my own thoughts.
What did we come down here to buy, Ratcast?
Oh, I've rightly forgotten. Oh, no, I remember.
Ratcast, you don't know if you have a history of memory loss. It's gonna keep happening.
I just talked to
You
a
need
doctor
your
yesterday.
family history.
I just talked to a doctor yesterday.
You
It's
might
fine.
have a
Worries
family
me a
history
little
of
bit.
lump cancer. Like, you need to get this checked.
I went and I talked to a doctor yesterday. Don't worry. I'll go back when we're done talking. I'll make an appointment. Also, I'm quite young. I definitely don't have a history of memory loss.
You actually do, though.
How do you know
No,
you're...
I don't think I do. I think I would remember that, Yuna.
How does Rakath know he's young if he can't remember where he came from?
My
He's
lumps
young at
aren't fully
heart.
grown yet.
Oh, yeah,
That guy
I-
was way lumpier than Raka.
I have a medical degree.
Like, if you
Boss.
cut off one of his lumps, are there rings in it?
Yes.
That tell you how old he is?
Yes.
That is true.
Yes. I have a medical degree. This is not. I don't know why you're worried about this.
Is broken.
You can't come in there expecting memes. You speak in truth.
Also,
hate
I remember.
everything about
I remember what we were going to buy. Is there someone in this area who is selling gems?
Yeah.
Do they have one of 500 gold value?
Yeah. There is
I
an
would like to-
independent gnomish mining operation. The sales woman is extremely straight-faced, no emotion. 500 golds for that there object, please.
Lovely.
Sir or madam.
What is your name?
My name does not matter.
Correct. But I'm curious anyways. My name is Rakath.
That is an unfortunate name due to my understanding of the Elven language.
Mine too. What's your name?
Their name is Pix. My name is Pix.
It's a lovely name.
Pixar, it didn't happen.
Or Pix the miner.
Absolutely. Here is 500 gold. Thank you very much.
I will
is
check
this-
these coins to check their validity. They
Please
are
do.
valid currency in the Treaty of the Deep. Thank you for your cooperation and your business today, sir or madam.
And thank you, Pix. I will very much wish you a happy day and a lovely endeavor on selling the rest of your wares. Goodbye.
And I'm going to hand Yuna the 500 gold gem.
This for?
Well, Voss and I think there might be a big old monster who might have killed an entire settlement in the Abamari region. And it would be very interesting if you could capture its soul.
Oh no.
Certainly. I'm gonna examine the gem just to make sure like it's suitable.
Oh yeah, he knows what you need. I don't know what type
a
of
usual guy,
yeah.
and I just want to make sure.
It's a gnomish cut, which means it's higher quality, but you know, you like the gems the way you get them. I can get you exactly what type of gem it is, but that doesn't really matter. It's good enough.
Ollie just falls further and further off screen as he.
This is where the
deeper
pile is.
into
The
his
pile
box.
is wider than usual because my advent calendar became part of the D&D book pile.
Never had an advent calendar. I really wanted to get one this year, but it was too late by the time I remembered.
Mine
I
is
have
right
one.
there.
I have one. See there, it's property of me.
Me, yes, reasonable.
I have one that's beers. It's 24.
I want a beer one. I was
so
trying to get a beer
good.
one this year, but I couldn't find one. You know what I can find though is the break
Time for
that
a
we're
break.
gonna be on. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be back for some diplomacy and politics after this episode of planning and avoiding your problems. It's called being in your early 20s.
He's in his 30s, but yeah.